Okay, current housing bubble is 40% greater than the last housing bubble, according to recent Case-Shiller data. But will the trifecta of housing issues bring housing prices and the market back to reality? We'll talk about this and more. Welcome to Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Randy Patrick here, putting the realism back in real estate. Today is September the 1st. Hope you are doing well. We're starting a new month and we're moving in towards the fall season right now. So busy news week on all fronts. Clearly, obviously a lot of news dominating the news wires these days. I just want to say thoughts and prayers to those affected by Hurricane Ida. Obviously, that's going to have some major ramifications with respect to house damage, power transmission, the whole bit. So we hope people are doing well and survive. And this is where forbearance actually works for people. This is where you need forbearance because the lenders will offer that to anybody who's affected by a natural disaster. So just please keep that in mind. If you need it because of the hurricane issues, please take advantage of it. All right, guys. So this video is brought to you by my relationship with foreclosure.com. If you want to get the best information, the most recent information, the number one location for distressed property listings, go to gethousingdata.com. That's gethousingdata.com. Now is the time to be looking at this type of stuff because it's becoming available right now. All right, guys, let's talk about things. And we got a lot on the go. I mean, I just can't believe what's going on. So what would be, I guess, the number one news factor from housing, which was yesterday, was, of course, it was the last Tuesday of the month. So what happened the last Tuesday of the month? Well, we have Case-Shiller data is released. That typically is what they do. They wait to the end of the month and I guess at the last Tuesday. So with having said that, looks like S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index shows annual home price gains topped 18.6% in June. Remember, Case-Shiller is usually a couple months behind because of their calculations. So even though NAR, the National Association of Realtors, had their stuff out for July, Case-Shiller is a little more complex calculation. They're talking about June. So the year over year was 18.6% for June 2021. And ultimately, June's 18.6% price gain for the national composite is the highest reading in more than 30 years of S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller data. Basically, everybody's is jumping up into the higher year-over-year stuff here. So we'll talk about that, etc. In a second. But we have previously suggested that strength in the U.S. housing market is driven in part by reaction to the COVID pandemic, as potential buyers move from urban apartments to suburban homes. All right, and June's data is consistent with this hypothesis, according to people from doing the Case-Shiller analysis. All right, there you go. So just a quick look on some of the graphs here. You can see that where the red arrow is, the past couple of months, the year over year home price appreciation has increased, and it's going up and up and up. So every month is a new record, and guess what? You can see it's kind of moving up exponentially. That is an exponential, I guess you could say, line on that graph. There's no doubt about that. This is the comparative over the past, obviously number of years, going from the 60s up to current. You can see where the middle of the screen there, that's the 2006 housing peak, and you can see based on all three indices, there's a 10-city and 20-city index and the national index. You can see everything is increased, and we're well above where we were back in 2006, previous housing bubble. Just how high are we? We came in at 41.3% from today's peak comparative to the 2006 peak. So the 2006 peak was when? July 2006. So we are basically we're talking 15 years from that point in time. We are now 41.3% above that peak. Clearly, the trough was back in, where was the trough? March or February 2012. And you can see that we've increased almost 95% from the trough to where we are right now. That's a pretty big swing, folks, with respect to the housing values and where things are at. So again, we all can debate bubble, and there's always those who are pro bubble, con on the bubble side. But I just look at it going, we are so above where it was here. Yeah, there's natural appreciation that takes place every year, but just again, if we can call the bubble back in 2006, why can't we call the bubble now? And a lot of analysts and economists are saying such. All right, guys, just so we go down the numbers here on the top 20. Atlanta, 16.5% year-over-year change. And again, this is from June 2020 to June 2021. Boston 18.6, Charlotte 19%, Chicago 13.3, Cleveland 15.4, Dallas over 20 at 21.3, Denver 19.6, Las Vegas, Detroit 16.3, Las Vegas 19.8, LA 18.7, Miami 20.1, that broke the 20 barrier, Minneapolis 13.8, New York 16.7, Phoenix, once again, Phoenix leads every month for the past how many months on Case-Shiller, 29.3, so almost, we're just 0.7% shy of 30% year over year in Phoenix, Arizona. Portland 19.2, San Diego 27.1, and Seattle, San Francisco 27. Hang on, let me get that here. San Diego 27.1, San Francisco 21.9, Seattle 25%, Tampa, where I'm at, 21.5, and Washington is 16.1. So ultimately, we are, everything is double digits, and the lowest is Chicago at 13.3. And we all know the issues that were surrounding the state of Illinois. So pretty significant. So you got 13.3 double digit all the way up to almost 30% double digit appreciation for June 2021. Significant numbers for the housing industry. So people always say, is it time to sell? When should I sell? Well, you're looking at it right now. I mean, I think this is probably, and I look at it going, because this is a 2-month delay, and now we're in September, which, in a lot of places across the country, we've already had the end of the summer selling season because school started. And I know in other places school starts the day after Labor Day. So, I think time maybe has already passed to sell. Still some inventory issues, still some bidding wars, though that is cooling down according to some of the news reports here. And oh, by the way, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, if you could please subscribe and help my channel grow, I'd really appreciate that. And if you think you're a subscriber, as I always say, could you please double check and resubscribe? Again, I've been losing lots of subscribers. I'm losing more than I'm putting on. So things are going on behind the scenes, if you get what I'm saying. So please check your subscription. Thank you once again, everybody, for helping my channel maintain and grow. All right, guys. So what do we see signs? So yeah, there's reports from all over the country on things slowing down. We're seeing slight increases in inventory across the board. Now we're seeing home buyers sign fewer contracts in July as high prices chill the summer market. So like NAR has, their existing home sale report. We have new home reports. NAR also has, a pending contract. It's almost like a confidence index or pending contract index. So these are not closed sales. These are, contracts that are signed. Now, does every contract go to fruition and close? Not necessarily. Things can fall out. But ultimately, it's an indication of forward-looking closings. And basically, they're saying your pending home sales dropped 1.8% in July from June. The market may be starting to cool significantly, said NAR's chief economist Lawrence Yun. Mortgage rates fell sharply during July, with the average on the popular 30-year fixed starting the month at 3.18%, ending at 2.84, according to Mortgage Daily News. But what we're seeing now is that sometimes rates aren't really even making that much of a difference. You can take a look at mortgage applications for both purchase and refis, ebb and flow directly proportional with rates going up or down. So as we've talked about before, home buyer sentiment is at its lowest level, and people, I think, are just, what I call buyer fatigued or tapped out with, hey, every month we hear things going up in price. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to jump into that foray as well too. So I think people are starting to pull back, and we will see more of this as the next couple of months go on, as the typical, we're sort of back to normal selling seasons now, sort of slow down and move into this fall, which typically is a slowdown. So we'll see how that plays out. So just information on that. The housing issues that will, the housing issue trifecta that will affect or will burst the housing bubble. We'll talk about that now. And really, I think we're starting to see a lot of changes and really kind of an inflection point in the housing market. Lots going on, as I said. So the number one thing, there's 3 things that are going to affect. So obviously the eviction moratorium. So just in case you haven't heard, the CDC moratorium was overturned by the Supreme Court. Once again, it was put in place earlier, and it was extended, and its last extension, or it was overturned, or it was told to stop. The Biden administration redid it again, or had the CDC recreate one, a little different wording, but the Supreme Court overturned it once again. I look at this as being too little, too late to help landlords. Most people now should be back to work. Stimulus has been paid, unemployment's being paid, the whole bit. So there really is money available for people to pay their rent. We also will focus on rental assistance issues. There's a lot of money out there, under 10% of the 47 or so billion dollars earmarked for various government acts or stimulus or whatever that's been earmarked for rental assistance. Only 10% has been distributed to the people that need it. What I mean by that is the renters / to the landlords. So the damage has already been done to the landlords, which is clear. Why this is important is because this ultimately hurts the rental community. So and I can tell you from firsthand experience with some of my clients that if they're applying for rental assistance, they can't get it unless the tenants participate. And participation is jumping on and finishing up the application or providing the information they needed. So if tenants don't do that, then rental assistance isn't given. It still hurts the landlords. How will it affect the rental community? Well, once the eviction moratorium is over now on a global, we'll call larger global national level. So evictions will start. So guess what? Landlords are going to evict tenants. Are they going to sell their properties? Are they going to raise rent to cover some losses? You bet they are. Will there be less rental properties available? I think so in the future. People may rethink what they're doing. So, or keep things off market. So I think ultimately in the end, it's going to hurt the rental community and cause increases in rent. We've already seen major increases in rental rates. And that, again, that's just going to permeate through all segments of income and people, and everyone will be paying more in the end. So it's not really a good thing. Obviously, just some of the news here, saying, the Supreme Court blocks the CDC's eviction ban. So that's, not a surprise. It's been a few days now for that. This is interesting, though, the rental policy shock. About 750,000 households are about to be evicted. What happens to the economy? Well, really, the strength of the housing and rental market suggests landlords will try to evict tenants who are delinquent on rent unless they obtain federal assistance. All right. But of course, we know that, the assistance is hard to get. So the end of the moratorium will also exert downward pressure on shelter inflation as vacancy rates rise. So what's happened here is that when we start looking at inflation, the consumer price index, what they're using as far as, or the government's using as the index is rental dollar values or rental rates to sort of tell us where inflation's at in housing. They're not using housing prices. They're using rental or shelter inflation, rental as shelter inflation as the index. So obviously that's going to change, and we'll probably see as rental rates increase now that the housing inflation part of this consumer price index will rise as well too. Ultimately, Goldman Sachs put together this analysis and sort of wanted to talk about where the economy is at. But we can see a surge in court cases. We can see a surge in other issues that go along with this. So really, it's almost like, what does one have to do to get a tenant to participate, to get the money? What does one have to do to get the government to promote this, to get the local housing authorities and the state levels to promote this so that we don't have evictions? I mean, the money's there, it's just not being spent. So the solution's there, the execution is not, and that is the problem. So ultimately, in the end, a lot of landlords have just dialed it in and said, we're not going to get it, or we're over it, and we're going to do what we need to do, and the hell with what's going on. So that's the situation here. So ultimately, we conclude by analyzing the inflation implications of these developments. While small in GDP terms, housing rental prices provide the source data for 17% of the core inflation basket and 40% of the core CPI basket. Eviction moratoriums reduce shelter inflation early in crisis by increasing the prevalence of rent forgiveness. So ultimately, in the end, this reduced the consumer price index on inflation. So now it's going to pop the other way. And ultimately, in the end, the forecast should be a lot higher, they're saying. And obviously, will we see, the surge in evictions could create new inventory available rental housing, partially offsetting rapidly rising housing costs. We'll see about that, because landlords could sell, or they could go, for the time being, maybe I'm not going to rent. Maybe I'm just going to hold tight for a bit, see where things are at before I engage. The last thing you want to do is engage in another person who will pay you for the first 2 months, and they're going to say, I can't pay you for whatever reason. So we know that games are being played and issues are out there. But ultimately, in the end, it boils down to getting money and how this manifests out. So for me, part of the first part of the trifecta is the eviction moratorium, how it's hurt the landlord community, and where it's hurt them. You can see what's going to happen. Obviously, you take a look at Thursday's Supreme Court ruling leaves most of the county without eviction protection. So really, the places where there still is eviction protection not from the CDC level, but Washington State, California, Illinois, Minnesota, New York, they do have state level protections, but they are expiring as well too the next little while. So ultimately, in the end, there's a few states that will hold on to it, but that will end, and people will start to feel the effects of eviction. So this is interesting from Yahoo Finance. Says many independent property owners have been swamped by rising costs associated with taxes, insurance, utilities, upkeep, even as tenants have gotten government lifelines. We're already being forced to sell our house, so it doesn't help us, said a landlord in California. I do feel sorry for the thousands of other mom and pop landlords, many of whom are retired and living on fixed incomes just like us and rely on rental income for the retirement. So again, this is how things play out. You've got the mom and pop small landlord segment who does need the money for various reasons, and even though there's no moratorium for them on their mortgages, there's no moratorium on paying property taxes, on paying your monthly insurance, on paying utilities and things like that, and maintenance and upkeep. So guess what? Money's coming out of their pockets, hurting them. Money's not coming in to offset those costs or to even maintain or earn a living here. So that's the first thing. Number two, the second part of the trifecta is forbearance exits. The volume is underestimated, but we're starting to see stuff happen now. Huge amount is predicted. So based on what I would call the underestimated volume, we have 1.2 million forbearance exits are predicted now until the year end. Obviously, there'll be more in 2022. The main concern that I like to bring up is that can the lenders handle the call volume? Basically, I saw a report, and I think I've talked about this in previous videos, where if they took all the 1.2 million people and divided it by the number of business days left in the remainder of the year, that would equal up to a minimum of almost 20,000 calls to lenders, banks, and servicers every day until the end of the year. Now, the loan mod's a different process, and why I wanted to bring that up, because with respect to forbearance, forbearance was easy. You called your lender, I want forbearance, click, you got it. Sometimes you can go on the website saying, I need forbearance, click, you got it. So forbearance was pretty easy to get. It was a very minimal client touch, I guess you could say, process. Loan mods are different, all right? And what I mean by that is you just don't click a button and say, I want a loan mod, and it's granted to you. Loan mods mean you have to do a loan modification application, all right? You got to send it in. You got to talk to one of the lender's reps. They got to analyze your income and expenses and see whether you qualify for a loan mod or other programs. Then they tell you what they can offer, and you have to agree to it. If you don't agree to it or it doesn't make sense, then you don't move forward. And then guess what? That's where the problem starts. So even though that was 18 to 20,000 calls per day, that's just talking one call. Loan mods are going to take multiple calls and multiple touch points, emails, faxes, back and forth, downloads, talking points, calls on the phone. So the loan mod process is much more, we'll call it client servicing intensive than just getting forbearance. So that's why I'm really concerned that the lenders aren't going to be able to handle this, and there'll be more issues. So now, just one thing I want to point out. So like every week we hear about the forbearance numbers and how they're dropping. Well, the forbearance numbers are less or maintaining because of the exits. Like as I mentioned, and many times, if you drop out of forbearance because your plan ends, then guess what? You're no longer in active forbearance. So the forbearance numbers look, I guess you could say, good because, we're seeing a reduction, but the implication is not that it's a successful exit. You've just exited. Now, what are you going to do about it? So, and this is, I just want to emphasize that. So, interesting enough here's the estimate for sale inventory expected from an 18-month forbearance exit. So we can see that August, the projected expirations is about 100K. September is going to be the big month for expirations, almost 452,000. October, almost 286. November, 185. December, almost 95,000. So that's a ton of people that, again, estimating on the exit. So estimates are usually underreported or underanalyzed or underwhelmed, whatever. So there'll be more here for sure. So this is based on the 1.8 million people that were obviously in forbearance just before August here. So this is where things will change, and we'll start to see some of the stuff fall out. So again, huge volume there. I just don't think that all the lenders and servicing companies can handle multiple calls from 1.2 million people over the course of the next few months. I think it's almost physically impossible. People will get frustrated. People will not do it because of frustration or call in or complete what they have to complete, and they'll fall into the foreclosure bucket. And then, they're going to give up, and that's what's going to happen down the road. So, obviously people should call in and try to get whatever they can as far as a loan mod or some sort of deferment. But I think in the end, this is where we're going to see a lot of stuff play out. All right. The third part of the trifecta, which you probably had to guess, is foreclosure filings, right? Well, why is this important? Because the moratorium is over. It ended July 31st. There's no more foreclosure moratoriums. It's an open market now, okay? So what am I seeing? More auctions scheduled. I'm seeing more foreclosure filings or starts happening now. So I've seen a small uptick in that. Because again, July 31st happened, so all the attorneys are getting back on play on the game on August, and they're just going to start to file stuff now. We're going to see that pick up. There's no more government protection. So really, there's no other plan that you can jump in to help you. Yeah, you may have you can maybe get forbearance. You got 30 days to get forbearance if you need it, if you haven't had it already, but that's it. All right. Homeowners need solutions. And again, so you have all the forbearance people calling, guess what, are calling for solutions to their lender, and you'll have homeowners who are facing foreclosure or in the foreclosure process calling for solutions. So a double whammy on we'll call lender call volume, which they're not even accounting for. All right. The forbearance group is exposed, as I mentioned. Why? Because they're just not going to get through. All right. Or they're going to forget about it, or they can't be helped for various reasons. Remember, guys, that a loan modification is based on income and expenses, what the lender can calculate and do for you. All right. So unemployment income and stimulus income, or checks, whatever, that's not income that's on a monthly basis that's counted. So that's not able to be used for your loan modification. That's where people will have some problems, right? The unprotected segment's exposed too. What I mean by that is mainstream media has talked nothing about, always talked about the forbearance group as that's the issue here. As I've always mentioned, there's a whole other 1.8 to 2 million people minimum that were delinquent but not in any forbearance program. Well, guess what? Foreclosures will start. So they're in that segment where wherever they were in the foreclosure process or the foreclosure filing process or starting any whatever it is auctions, they're now in the game too. All right. So there's no forbearance protecting them. And again, the landlord segment with eviction moratoriums will start to see that manifest as well too. So we're going to start seeing stacking. So it's almost like we're going to have default or distress stacking going on as the months play out here, and there will be that will be the issue for the housing market, thus the opportunity from us. So this is how I look at things, and again, I'm much more active now. I haven't done a video for a while, and it's because I'm busy. All right, things are picking up right now. So interesting enough here too, this was put out back last month. Ultimately, we've got, Adam Data Solutions put out the 250 counties most vulnerable to foreclosures. So if you take a look at, the locations, Florida leads with 31 vulnerable counties. You got California, you got Illinois, you got Ohio, you've got Georgia, South Carolina, Texas with 7. You got, it looks like Jersey with 17. Looks like Maryland with 10, 11 in 11 in New York State. So, Mississippi, Louisiana 9. Obviously, we're going to have more issues with respect to the hurricane and flooding in Louisiana. But hopefully, again, they'll have some deferment with forbearance there. So realize that that's sort of where we're at. Now, just to tie in the forbearance number, the quote down below is, of current distressed borrowers, 10.2, and we're talking, this is the forbearance number. So this is that 1.8 million number they were talking about back a couple months ago, okay? So of current distressed home or borrowers, 10.2 are in their initial stage of forbearance and 81.7% are in extension. So this is the whole point I'm trying to make here. So if we are at record housing prices, Case-Shiller, is showing records in 20 cities and national indices. NAR every month, National Association of Realtors on the existing home prices are showing that, home values are at the record pace again too. So if we have all this going on, why are 81.7% of people in forbearance not selling their homes right now? Why aren't they cashing out their equity, right? That's the question you're going to have to ask. So obviously there's more underlying problems here. Maybe that equity is not always what it cracks up to be, and realize that when you do are in forbearance, that's chipping away at your equity because it's still a non-payment. You still owe that number, and if the market's changed slightly, you're gonna have less in your pocket. And also the fact of the matter is, so once I sell, where am I going to go? Am I going to buy? I can't probably buy now. Am I going to rent? Rental prices are up. So you see, this vicious circle is going to go on and on and on. And it's just, people are just revolving, and somehow the homeowner is going to pop out somewhere. It's not going to be favorable. But I want to let you know that, again, that argument that we have all this equity and everyone these forbearance homeowners will just sell and walk away, that doesn't really seem like it's happening right now. So why wouldn't you sell in the summer selling season? We're at the peak of the marketplace. So ask that question. All right. So that's with respect to that. Now, just so I just did a quick snapshot of the Miami-Dade, we'll call it auction schedule. So the blue is the foreclosure auctions, which I'm focused on. The orange is the tax deed auction. So Miami-Dade auction schedule has 163 foreclosures scheduled for auction in the month of September, right? So right now, because the earliest in Florida that the court can assign a foreclosure sale date after the final judgment hearing's been held is 30 days. So really right now, September is not going to grow. So there's 163 scheduled foreclosures right now in Miami-Dade County for September. If we go to the next month here, guess what? We're at October. We're already at 155. So 155 and another month to file is coming. So for example, today's September 1st, right? Any hearings that are held today that result in a judgment that say now we can set a sale date, the earliest they could schedule is the 4th of October, all right? Because obviously they're not going to schedule on the Friday because there's no, I guess they don't do it on the Friday in Miami-Dade. So the whole point of that you saw 163 the month before September. We're already at 155 in this month, and every day of September during the week where there's hearings will result in every day where there's potential foreclosure filings available or foreclosure auctions, those numbers will increase. So that's what I'm saying. So we're starting to see increases now in auctions. It will pick up. Things will, as I said, will play out. So please be aware of that. Now, just some quick headlines here. So I love this. This is a couple blogs I go on. You choose to buy a home that you can't afford. You pay the price now. Don't be the last one off the ship when it springs a leak. Sanity is returning and competition is softening. What do we got here? So that's going on right now. So this is just what's happening in the marketplace and what we're I guess you could say the information. It became more trouble than profit with the house. All right, we're going to see people that want to panic sell and just get out of the market, right? Because if you miss the peak selling season, you got to get out now before you lose. So all this is going to go on. I cried many nights thinking, where's my money? Okay, so again, there are little signs that says the market could be nearing a turning point. So all these things, as I said, it's not one thing that forces a shift in the marketplace or a crash. It's a number of things compounded together that make a big difference. So as I said, the shift had started. It started July 31st with respect to the ending of the foreclosure moratorium. So now we're seeing everything kind of change. Everyone's talking about this now. Who's talking about it? Well, large investors that I know waiting to pounce on this. Other investors, medium and smaller size, inquiring and positioning. Primary home buyers are now going, I want to get in on this. Other real estate agents are going, I need to get into this market as well too, because it's going to be huge. Info marketers that have real estate products and services, it's heating up. There's more stuff going on. It's just like the previous housing crisis. Everything is, we're stacking or getting prepared for all this. And as I always say, this could be the last time that we see something like this play out in housing, because I'm sure they're going to be people are going to be changing things down the road. Just talking through some equity here. You've seen this a few times. This is just locations in Florida. And when I'm looking at some of these numbers here, just the difference between short sales and retail median price point is huge. We got 75,000 difference in equity here in the Tampa area. We've got 84 in the Ocala area. We've got 100K in the Orlando Kissimmee area. All right, so this is why you should be doing short sales. This is why you should be getting into the distressed housing market, because there are differences right there. So everyone says, oh, well, you know what? You can't get deals today in short sales because the market's so high. Well, you know what? It's reflective of where we're at. So yeah, are you going to be able to buy a short sale today for the same price you could buy it a year from now? Probably not. Probably be a bit more expensive. But the whole point though is that comparatively speaking, it's still a discount. So if you got to buy a house now, or you want to, and you want to invest or whatever, you're still going to get a good deal today. All right. Now, what thing is, we can't predict the future. So how far the market will dip or dive, we don't know. So I look at it going, for those of you who say I'm going to wait until it's 50% off where it is today, you might be, you're not going to realize it's there until it's after the fact, because real estate's based on comparables, which are sales that have closed previous months. So that's why we got to watch how we sort of plan things out here. Again, other locations, the Jacksonville area, 151K in equity. The Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton, 178K in equity. And again, the big one, Miami, Lauderdale, West Palm area. It's a large metro, 3 counties, a lot of population, a lot of expensive homes. The homes there on average are more expensive. Look at the equity, 248K in equity. Comparatively speaking, this is single families, traditional median sales price versus short sale median sales price. All right. So that's the scoop. That's why there's potential here. If you're not thinking about this or seeing this or wanting to get involved, then I don't know what else to tell you, okay? 1% of all the sales across the board on a national basis every month are distressed, which means half of them are short sales, half of them are real estate owned slash, REOs, bank owned properties foreclosed on in the MLS. And those ones typically are the crap ones because the lenders didn't take them back, didn't sell the auction, whatever. So the stuff that comes in the market is garbage and it's overpriced. So you want to hit the short sale market because you have a better chance, you get better discounts, you control the property, and you go from there. So having said that, guys, really, do you want to know how to acquire a property that has between almost 60K to almost 250K of equity or that's under fair market value? I think most people would. Reach out to me. We'll talk about this. Long weekends coming up. I'm going to be doing a lot of, again, I've been really busy with out in the field doing stuff, trying to get things closed up, acquiring deals, getting more involved in the short sale business because it's starting to happen now. So people are coming to the surface. So get involved. Reach out to me. I'll be people that I need to call or need to follow up with. I'll be doing a lot of that over the weekend. So I hope you're okay with that. Hopefully I'll have a quieter weekend. But stuff's happening now, guys. Get involved. Don't waste time. That's my big thing to you. Don't wait for it to already happen. It's already started. It's happening now. Get involved earlier because you'll be better served when stuff does open up and there's more volume. And I'll tell you my thoughts on how this is going to play out, which is not going to be the same as the last housing crisis, okay? We're going to have some change for sure. It's not going to play out the same way, and that's important for you to understand and know because it'll affect how you enter and manipulate and work in the marketplace. All right, guys. So again, having said that, once again, this is how you engage with me. Just send me an email, send me your phone number so I can call and text you as well too. So thank you once again for the views, likes, comments. Please share the video with your family and friends. Have a great long weekend and subscribe to not already subscriber. But again, reach out to me because it started. We're getting busy now and we see it happening. All right, guys, take care. Talk to you soon.